What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring you everything fresh in entertainment. I'm your host, Drew Brumfield. Join with me tonight is Robert. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good tonight, Drew. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I am doing fantastic because I'm joined with you, and I'm also joined with our friend Seth. Seth, how are you doing?
Where'd everybody go? Bingo.
Exactly, we're at Bingo, and we're at Bingo because we are talking about one of the greatest games that, in your guys' opinions, has ever been made. And that is Re4 Classic. Because at the time of recording this podcast, the remake is not out. But we are talking about the original 2005 Resident Evil 4. And it's a game that is very near and dear to our hearts. And we've had a lot of trials and tribulations trying to get this podcast. Because this is the second time we're actually recording the Resident Evil 4 Origin podcast. Because there was a weird audio glitch after we recorded it the first time. And so this is the remake of the Resident 4 podcast. Not to be confused with Resident 4 Remake, the game.
Or we could just call this the HD edition, or Wii edition if we're feeling spicy.
Ooh. This is definitely the Wii edition at this point.
We have gyroscopic aiming with this podcast. You just aim it anywhere you can hear our voices.
With the amount of trials and tribulations I've had with this stupid podcast. Oh yeah, this can be the Wii version. This feels right.
Robert, do you know if Resident Evil 4 got a Wii U release?
It gets digital on the eShop, so you have approximately 7 days or 6 days to pick it up. Because March 27th, bye-bye eShop.
So So what you're saying is there is a Wii U version.
I mean, It's just the Wii version on the Wii U, but...
All right, Seth, calm down.
That's it? So do you even get to do the Wiimote aiming or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's just the Wii version. You can just buy it digital on the Wii U.
Also, Seth, you need to calm down, all right? We're not the Wii... I know we're a small-time podcast, but, we're not no damn Wii U version, all right? We have a little bit of class.
I don't know.
We have to remember the Wii U in its last week of having an eShop.
Okay, but back on track. We're not talking about the Wii U. Maybe that'll be a different podcast. Probably not, because I don't think many people remember that console, or shouldn't remember that console. We are talking about Resident Evil 4 Classic. And Seth, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found Resident Evil 4? You're a big Resident Evil fan.
How I came across it?
Yes.
I mean, it's one of those things where you hear about it not only because it was a GameCube classic. Everybody talked about it as being one of the premier hits on that system, but also a lot of developers tend to cite RE4 as an influence. Some of the big names are Dead Space, Last of Us, where you can see some of the more obvious influences there with the over-the-shoulder camera, some of the horror elements there. But other games, even Gears of War, cite that they took their perspective on how third-person action is handled from RE4. I don't want to say RE4 was the first game to do sort of a over-the-shoulder camera perspective, but it definitely was the one that made it popular, and because of that, so many other games come from it. So just because I love to dig into games and their history sometimes, I heard that a lot of developers seem to cite RE4 as an influence. So I knew it was a game that eventually I would have to try. And thankfully, Capcom makes it very easy because they port that game every 3 years, it feels like, at this point. So there's no lack of systems to get it on. And in the long-winded way, I got into Resident Evil franchise through 7, really liked it. So I started playing through a lot of the older ones, including RE4. And since then, RE4 has kind of stood as one of my personal favorites.
It's definitely one of the games that people talk about as contenders for one of their favorite games, whether it's through nostalgia or even if people play it nowadays. For me, the game feels a bit clunky because it is still No matter as much polish you put on it, it's a game from 2005, but it still kind of holds. It has some of the best pacing I've ever seen in a video game, and it has this certain charm and like seriousness, but also scary, but also incredibly silly that I don't think I've ever seen replicated or even done nearly as close to well. Just like despite it coming out so many years ago, it still feels kind of like unique and fresh and just so different from everything else.
Just to add like a extra bit of point to that too, Resident Evil Village, which I really enjoyed, felt like it was Capcom's attempt to sort of recapture some of the essence of like Resident Evil 4 with that first person perspective with the recent Resident Evil games. And as much as I love Village, I don't think it hits quite the same highs as the original Resident Evil 4. Like just to point out like how good that game is.
Yeah. No, I agree. Robert, I'll give my origin last because I played it the most recently. So, what is your origin with RE4? How did you first get into it?
So, I discovered the game through like watching like this Let's Play channel of like the Wii version, and I thought the game looked pretty fun, but I didn't really have like a big interest in it. But one year I saw it was on sale for like $8 or something on a Steam sale. So I was like, okay, I've heard really good things about this. I think I'm going to check it out. And then I started to play it. I got up to where you got Ashley, and then I ended up putting the game down. Though that was kind of just because it was a really busy time in my life because I was trying to finish like my senior portfolio to graduate. Mm-hmm. So that kind of got shifted to the wayside. And eventually, fast forward a couple of years, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this another shot. I liked what I played before. I'm going to actually try and see this through the end. And as I keep playing, I'm like, wow, this really holds up really good. Like, just everything about the game just kind of works together to be this really fun, like, action horror game. And, yeah, that's pretty much, like, my, I guess, timeline of RE4.
Yeah, I see. As for me, anyone that plays video games for a while has heard of Resident Evil 4. It's almost impossible to avoid. You know, everyone talks about it. So I knew the game, and I had watched a playthrough of someone I liked for a long time. And you two specifically always gave me shit for never actually picking it up and playing it. In fact, you guys give me shit for never picking up or playing any of the Resident Evil games. But I would say I know them, and I know them. I know how they end, and I know like what basis they are. But you guys always like give me shit on it. So one faithful Christmas, Robert here actually just gifted me it on Steam. Like, well, okay, now
on Xbox.
On Xbox,
yeah,
on Steam.
Robert just got tired of your shit. He's just like, all right, damn it. We're going to finally make this man play this game.
Look,
that's pretty much what it was.
I mean, yeah. Look, if you want me to play anything, just give it to me. For a while, I kept saying, yeah, I'll play Persona 4 or 5. Just give me a PS5, and I'll play it.
It's on Game Pass.
Now it's on that Game Pass now, so you really don't have an excuse.
I'll just keep ignoring it until later.
You know, you can just say, I'm just not going to play the game. Like, that would probably make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, but then, like, that would... I feel like I have said that before, and, like, it would make you guys upset. I don't want to do that, because then you might not do this podcast
it would not
with me.
It would not make us upset. What makes us upset is you keep saying, I'll play this game, and then you never freaking touch it.
I say eventually. I'm in the back. I played this one. I played RE4. I said, we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, with RE4, I eventually had to be like, okay, look, I'm going to make you play it.
Yeah.
Here's a copy.
Robert, so actually what happened was Robert just drove up to, like, Drew's apartment, pulled out a gun, and then, like, threw a copy of RE4 down. It's like, you're going to play this game. I'm going to watch you the whole time.
I'm going to watch. Like, go that by.
It was a very weird experience. It was almost like some sort of psychological horror shit.
Yeah, it was amazing. Seth was there too. Like weirdly,
it's like Drew's favorite movie, Misery, but instead of like an author being forced to finish a book, it's him being forced to finish a game by his friend.
That movie is fantastic. That movie is really good. Yeah, that was pretty much what. But other than the gun point at my head at all times, and Seth also just being at my apartment while I played this, because Seth was also there. He just has an
Oh
accomplice.
yeah, I had like a gun too.
He had a gun. It
pointed
wasn't pointed at me,
had
but he just
pointed
had it, just in
at,
case.
At everyone. It was a Mexican standoff.
Yeah. Seth had a gun pointed at himself, and I don't know what he was gonna do if I didn't play the game.
Persona.
But I.
What was the movie where it's just okay? No, I can't get off track already.
We are so off track, but no, I played the game and I did enjoy it. Shocker. The game that everyone says they love and adore since 2005, I played in 2023 and actually liked it. Who was surprised? But yeah, we're here to talk about why Resident Evil 4 works and why it's so good. And for me, when I first kind of started out, I will say it took a minute to get used to the as described tank controls with Leon, because he's not your traditional action hero that, while he is doing cool acrobatic stuff, he doesn't roll around or have a double jump or do any the Call of Duty slides. He's very kind of almost clunky. He has to always turn. He can only aim forward, and he can't be moving while he aims. He also can really only move in the direction that you're pointing the gun in. Or pretty much, he can move forward and slowly in any other direction. But after a good 30 minutes to an hour of playing the game, the controls just kind of start feeling natural and just start feeling better. And it's a weird kind of system of just it doesn't play like your traditional first-person shooter, but it's still oddly really rewarding when you are able to do something cool despite kind of the clunky controls that the game gives you.
Yeah. It's very deliberate in that way because they want you to really have to think about every action you take. Where's my train of thought here? They make you commit to every action you take, so you kind of have to plan things out sort of in a way. Okay, I think this would be a good spot to kind of stand my ground here and try to take down a few enemies.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways for you to be methodical with the gameplay, especially it helps that it extends to even the enemies where you're not only making a choice to stand your ground and shoot, but you can also pick certain parts of their limbs to make the strategic option. Yeah, you can go for headshots, but you can also shoot them in the legs to trip them over. You could shoot the weapons out of their hands. There's a lot of different ways to handle a situation when you decide to make your stand.
Yeah, and it also just adds a lot of tension to it because it's because you have to commit to the option, you have to stand there and just as enemies slowly approach you, you have to either stand your ground or try to find a way around them. So it creates some really interesting scenarios.
Yeah, as said by Seth on the podcast that never did air, everything is either fight or flight. You either, because you can't move while you shoot, you either have to stand your ground and try to shoot off all the enemies if you think you can handle it, or just turn around and run and try to get them in a straight line, or group them up, or do something. Everything is a deliberate choice. Do I use the grenade here and take out 3, or do I try to clump more together and try to save resources? Do I really want to shotgun this one enemy when I can just try to shoot him in the leg a few times and suplex him? Everything is just managing resources, and it's a very satisfying feeling when you do get through areas like that. But as for the game itself, as for your main character itself, you play as Leon S. Kennedy, who some have said is one of the greatest characters Capcom has ever created. Seth, tell me a little bit about Mr. Kennedy, about your main character.
Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy.
So Leon definitely went through a glow up because he kind of went from a green around the ears rookie cop in Resident Evil 2 to where he was competent but also very overwhelmed and outmatched with what he was facing, to here this is just another day on the job pretty much for him. He is just cracking jokes, bad jokes too. No thanks, bro. Just really weird line deliveries where it's that weird character type where Leon is thinks he's cool, so he says some of the most uncool things. But because how he commits to how corny it is, it does make him kind of cool in that way. Also, he knows how to give sick kicks now, so that's Leon's character.
Roundhouse kicking everyone.
Yeah, he's like he's also a wrestler too. He does suplexes, freaking awesome shit.
He mastered the art of suplexes during his government training.
Yeah, it was very key. But I think the best way I can describe Leon is comparing him to like horror titles, or sorry, a horror movie. The way I kind of describe Resident Evil 4 a lot of times is it's kind of like Evil Within, not Evil Within, sorry, Evil Dead 2, where it does have those horror elements for sure, just like the first movie. But it also has a character that has undergone a change, is much more competent, is also really badass, maybe going insane. And it's just a more goofier experience. It's just a fun, it's just like really fun. So I love Leon because of that, you know.
No, Leon's great. He is definitely like probably the best like Resident Evil character. Like you said, he's really fun to be with. Despite moments being like super tense, he's still cracking one-liners and roundhouse kicking indigenous people in their homeland, which is a bad look if you didn't like know that they had a virus in them. They're not zombies. They just have a parasite or whatever. But he just comes to their homeland and starts kicking them around and shooting them. But it's
badass though.
It's badass though. But his character,
is it American imperialism? Maybe, but it's badass American imperialism.
America. Yeah. What I like about Leon though is even if a situation is like really tense or like very like strenuous, it never feels like it breaks pace. Like it never feels weird to have a character very confident in his like abilities and situation. You still do feel those tense moments. You never like lose anything. There's never really a one-liner that really takes you out of it. If it's cool, then it's cool. But if it's bad, it's like laughable bad and like almost like they did that on purpose type laughable bad.
Oh yeah. So I think just to add to it, I understand that like a criticism about Leon's character going from like 2 to 4 is that it's like, yeah, he was like a scared rookie cop. Well, he might have been scared, maybe not show up, but like he's a scared rookie cop in RE2, and now he's suddenly this like cheesy movie one-liner badass. Like, what happened to RE4? But I feel like it makes
RE2?
sense because if you, by the time in RE4, my bad, and like because in RE2, well, now granted, I played like the remake of it. But even in RE2 Remake, you kind of see Leon like progress from being like kind of overwhelmed by the situation, trying to take things one thing at a time, to he's not really scared anymore by the end of it. He's just kind of done with everyone's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that is like a perfect bridge of like where he goes from like RE2 to RE4.
No, I agree.
He's like when you see like Mr. X the first time, he's like Jesus Christ, and then by the end he's just like, is this a fucking joke?
Yeah, like I remember he's like, it's like where he was like terrified of Mr. X at first, and by the end of RE2 Remake, he's just like, Jesus, you again? It's just, and he's like literally just like, why won't you die?
Leave me alone. Please.
It's that's character progression.
Yeah. He's probably just happy
when you're no longer. It basically the character progression with Leon is he's gone from scared for his life to just tired of this bullshit, which is basically a lot of like, I think how most people just feel with like their daily work life.
You know,
they just go from like overwhelmed to just I'm tired of this shit.
Now that you say that, like I remember thinking back to like looking at it, I was like, God, Leon's eyes look so just like like when was the last time he slept? Because I remember playing and his eyes are just like bulging out, and I'm just like, dude, blink, please. Like, goddamn, he's just like, I'm so fucking tired, but I gotta keep kicking these people. Just saying the president's daughter.
Yeah, man, these people aren't going to kick themselves.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many people to kick. Anyway, last thing I'll mention about Leon before we get into the opening of the game. And Robert, I'll ask you about this. Robert, tell me about, in my opinion, one of the missteps with Leon is the fact that you start out in the game with the coolest coat and like arguably his most like iconic outfit, and then it's immediately taken away.
This man's got the excuse me. This man's got the drip, and then he loses. Okay, what happens is after he gets knocked out, they take his drip away. That's the thing. His jacket's so cool. The Ganados take it from him.
Bro, I would have burned that out into the ground to get that drip back. Leon was styling when he showed up to this place. I want that
dude,
bomber
Leon's
jacket.
got so much drip, he got a bunch of people to style their hair after him. Like, people would bring in their copies of RE4 to, like, a barbershop and go, make my hair look like this.
You know, it's funny. I know for a fact you're telling the truth. I know for a fact. I have no way of confirming that, but I'm like, yeah, no. Given how many times, like, go to any Comic-Con and you will find someone dressed as Leon. I'm like, yeah, no, this dude, like, he knows how to look good. He's a good-looking man. And gosh, I wish you could keep that jacket for the entire game. I'm sure in the remake, it'll be the thing where like, oh, if you beat the game on so difficulty, or if you buy this DLC, or if you do this challenge, whatever. I'm like, but I want the jacket now. Now. Gosh, it's so cool. But speaking of the opening, this opening has been cited as, at least by Seth, as one of the greatest video game openings to ever do it. And essentially, I'll give a brief synopsis and then I'll let Seth explain why he loves it so much. But pretty much immediately when you get there, you're attacked by these villagers, including one with a large chainsaw and then a bag over his head. And
Dr. Salvador.
Is that what the chainsaw man's name is?
Yeah.
He's a doctor?
I know. Yeah.
Huh.
You would. I mean, don't assume anything, Drew. Like, this guy worked hard for that
Oh, I
doctorate.
didn't realize he had a PhD. Yeah. But yeah.
He's a PhD in kicking your ass.
Look, doctor by day, chainsaw killer by night.
Wow, good on him. So, he's got to feed the family somehow. And it'll be with your corpse if you let him touch it, because it is a one-shot kill. But Leon is sent to this island to rescue Ashley, the president's daughter. And before he even gets to the main center of town, he's immediately attacked by not zombies, just all the indigenous people seem to almost have somehow brainwash taken over them. And it's a very iconic moment of just you're immediately thrown into the game. You barely even had chance to get a grasp on the controls, and you're already just swarmed by a million of these people, and they're screaming some Spanish language at you that you don't understand. You're running to buildings. You're trying to just honestly survive for a brief amount of time, or kill I forget the exact number, but just kill as many of them as possible. But Seth, why is this first kind of part in the village so memorable for so many people?
I think it's a number of things. I think one, it really sets the mood of the game because you're having like you said, you're really still coming to grips with the controls of the game, and you're not as confident in your abilities just yet when fighting the Ganados. At the same time, though, Leon is still being Leon. After you manage to survive through the village part, he does have some levity where he says where'd everybody go? Bingo. He has his cheesiness still there. Plus, you get to save a dog along the way. This all sounds like random shit that I'm throwing out, and it kind of is. But what I'm trying to get at is this opening is packed with a lot of little ways that it's kind of teaching the player of how the game works, and setting up the traps, setting up the interaction with certain things in the environment, like being able to get the dog released from the trap, or shooting down spindles from trees and shit like that. Like, it's ways to like get the player to understand, like, this is how the game world hides its secrets. This is how you're going to be managing your inventory. And then it throws you at the village like almost immediately. And it is a test of like, all right, now you need to, for lack of a better word, get good. I hate to use that phrase, but that's kind of essentially what they're saying is like, you really need to come to grips to the game systems in order to survive the sequence.
Yeah,
So
it's like it takes a bit of your skills because like you have to pay attention to your environment too because they have like different mine traps, they have bear traps, they got like snakes, so you got to keep out an eye out
yeah,
for little things too.
the god dang snakes. I
Fuck
forgot about that.
Those snakes. There was never really like this game doesn't have like many jump scares. It had a few very minor like creepy moments, but there were actually times I was genuinely fucking scared because I would just be walking around not paying attention. Sometimes maybe even talking to someone like while like playing this game, and just out of nowhere break apart and a fucking snake jumps out. Like Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, honestly, the snake is probably the scariest enemy in this game.
It's terrifying.
You never know where they're gonna be.
I should looking back on, I need to like and they're completely random. But God, I want to use the rocket launcher on a snake just one time. Just one time. Even though that is so fucking overkill, but just one time.
I think if you play through on professional difficulty once, which I know that's already asking quite a bit, you can actually unlock the infinite missile launcher, so that could be your ticket in.
I will. There's a myriad of other games that I need to play right now. So maybe eventually, because one of them will probably be Re4 Remake when that comes out in a few days. But sticking with the classic one, no. So I agree with you of this game, and this like goes with the entire game. But RE4 I think stands out for so many people and has like remained such a good game because it has some of the best pacing in any video game I have ever seen. And I think that's what makes it so like revolutionary and so good is the fact that, you know, it's always throwing new enemies at you, but it'll do it periodically. Here's like one Ganado. Here's, you know, a few more. Here's them plus a chainsaw guy. Further in the castle. All right, now they have like masks over their face so you can't shoot them in the head. Now they have bows. It's always upgrading, and it'll always introduce enemies and then introduce them in others and then multiple of them. So it has really good pacing, and at no point is it ever like frustrating. There are times when it's difficult, but never like needlessly difficult. So I think this game, and especially this first section, this village area, has some of like the best pacing in like video games, period. But as you said, you save a dog. The dog helps you in a boss fight, and then you never see that dog again. The good El Gigante. Am I saying that right?
El Gigante, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it helps you in that, and then the dog just leaves. And that dog is the best character in all of Resident Evil, and he better show
Yeah, we're
up.
just gonna assume that dog just like manages to get out of this like village, goes somewhere, raises a family of kids, and just lives a good life.
Actually,
and just remains a good boy forever.
Yeah. At the end of the game, you're just like you're driving away on that jet ski, like with the President Star, and you just look to your left, and it's the dog on a second jet ski with like a pair of sunglasses, wearing your jacket, and you're like, "That's where my fucking jacket went." That's my
Honestly, I'll
ending.
take that.
Yeah, that's my ending.
I like it.
Yeah, but you have that. You also
The
have
fitting in for a good dog.
Yeah, he earned that coat. He's a good boy. He can have the jacket. You also fight this weird lake monster. Which, fun fact, when I first played the game, I didn't realize you could drive the boat. I realized it after I died once. And then I was like, oh, you can move around. But I thought you just had to stand your ground and harpoon this giant lake monster to death on this little dinky boat that you have. So, you know, that worked out well for me. That was fantastic. And finally, you have your last fight in the village part is the village chief Butt Oreos. That's not
The
his
big
real name,
cheese.
but that's just what my phone auto-corrected to. Good old Butt Oreos. And for some reason, I'll get to like the other boss fights in here, and including 3 of them, which arguably are some of the harder boss fights that I just one-shotted. But this one in particular, for some reason, and I have no explanation to why, but for some reason, I had a lot of difficulty with Chief Butthole. Because after his first phase, and he's just kind of crawling around, running on the ceiling, for some reason it was very difficult for me to try to, and it might have just been I just didn't have the right resources to deal with him. Maybe you just skip something very obvious, but once he's on that little crawling thing, I just had to run to one side of the room, turn around, get 2 shots in, dodge, run to the other side of the room, turn around, get 2 shots in, go to the other side of the room, and I just kept doing that, and I was like, Jesus Christ, will you die? This is so annoying.
I remember kind of feeling the same way in
Yeah.
that fight because I'd like run aside, try to shoot him a bit with the TMP, and then he gets too close. Like, okay, just gotta run around you.
Run around. I run. Okay, 1 pistol shot. Okay, you're very fast, and you're on the ceiling, and it takes so long for Leon to look up at the damn ceiling. Because I'll always aim like kind of center mass, and then you just gotta slowly tilt your cursor up. And I was like, this game was not designed to shoot flying enemies, and I hate this thing. So I would probably say, and just kind of quickly looking at like the bosses, I would say like Chief Butthole might be my least favorite boss like in the entire game. Because there's a lot of bosses that are like really unique and really memorable, and he's not memorable and just kind of more frustrating to fight against. So do you kind of feel a similar way, or do you just don't find him that memorable? The village chief.
The village chief, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chief Butthole, or Butt Oreos.
I think he's a neat, like, I don't want to say first proper boss fight because I kind of consider El Gigante as like the first proper boss fight.
And that boss is fun.
I think it really sells, like, I suppose the horror of the parasites, like just from a body horror perspective. The way you fight this dude he just looks like some sort of swole village chief dude. Like, he just works out a lot. But then he just, like, when you're in that fight with him, and then, like, he reveals his, like, weird parasitic form. Like, you got, like, tentacles and shit, and you're fighting all this. And then he goes into that, like, ugly-ass second form where he, like, starts crawling around on the ceiling. He's, like... I'm sorry if I keep referencing movies on this one, but it kind of reminds me of, like, how the Thing would constantly transform into, like, weird, like, body form stuff, Like, it's just like, this is just meat. It's just a pile of angry meat with teeth, and it wants to kill me.
It does. Now that you bring that up, there's a lot of, like, things and a lot of, like, bosses and enemies in this that are, like, horror movie themed. That thing is definitely a reference to The Thing, now that you point that out.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that at least
and that
we
is
can
one
see
of
that. I
my
can definitely
favorite horror
see the
movies.
influence.
Yeah.
And I think from a design perspective, I really like the Village Chief as the first one because the part of the horror that we kind of talked about is you fight these villagers. They're like, well, they're not zombies. What are they? And then at night, whenever the parasites like start to sprout out of their heads and like all this shit, it's like an oh my god moment. Like, it's horrifying. So it's really cool to see this, like, to see it in almost like its full glory on a host that's fully embraced it. It's to the point where he's just, like I said, crawling around on the ceiling. Like, it's a pretty nuts fight. I could definitely see it being a tough fight. I didn't really have that much of a problem fighting him, even on professional difficulty. But I will say it was a pretty heavy drain on my resources. The first starter shotgun you get, I pretty much used all my shotgun shells on that fight. A lot of shotgun shells, a lot of grenades. So, but I think that's the way a fight should be, especially with a boss fight, is it should really push you to your limits. Or maybe not limits, but like it should really put like a bit of a strain on your resources where you don't feel very safe.
No, fair.
Yeah. I think the arena itself is designed in that you can't feel very safe way too, because it's one of the more narrow arenas. So it's like a real test of being able to kind of weave around the bosses and such.
Yeah, you have no room to fight against that dude. You are stuck in that
Yep.
very, very small
You got the
barn.
ground level, and then you got like a little bit of like a second
Yeah.
level. But really, you should just go up there to get the resources because he can hit you off there.
Yeah. Oh,
It
especially in the
works.
second phase where he just hops right up there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. Uh, but yeah, that the first area, the village. And around this point, you do technically meet her before you actually fight the chief. But the main part where you're with Ashley is in the castle, so I think it's appropriate to talk about her. Ashley is arguably the most controversial part of this game because Ashley is the thing where some people either kind of just be like, she's okay or not. To some people will say she is fucking ruining this game. She's awful. She's terrible. She's constantly being, hey, Leon, help, Leon, help, help, Leon, and just screaming anytime she gets captured. At no point can she like pick up a weapon or like help you fight or do anything. You are just there to protect her. It is the escorting part, and that's a good portion of the game is just escorting Ashley. Me personally, I didn't hate Ashley as much as a lot of the die-hard Resident Evil people think. I thought she was fine, and most of the time I would just be, go hide in a trash can or just tell her, hey, wait right here, go clear one out, and then whistle, and she'll come right running towards you. But that was more my thoughts on it. Robert, what are your thoughts on Ashley in Resident Evil Original?
So, with Ashley, I wasn't the biggest fan of her as a character. I did find her kind of annoying, but I think as like for it being like an escort mission, it's actually a really smart idea they're going for of Ashley, because protecting her adds a lot of like tension to encounters. Because the point in the game where you get Ashley, you're starting to get pretty comfortable with like combat and such. Um, but having Ashley in the mix where you have to protect her because again she's pretty helpless without Leon, it kind of makes you think more about positioning and like where to keep Ashley to keep her from either you accidentally shooting her or for her to get like picked up and like ran off with. Because if an enemy leaves the map with her, it's game over. So having her there really adds a lot to just keeping you on your toes. Like you can't feel too safe because you got to make sure Ashley's okay. So as I think about it more, I think having her there is more of like it helps the game rather than hurts the game.
I agree with it. Because I'll definitely say when I had Ashley around, I would get game over, quote unquote, because of either I wasn't paying attention to her or what was the most likely cause of I would whip around and accidentally shoot her in the side of the head. But half the time that's not even her fault.
But she's also but also another thing is like now granted if you do it really quickly like that, yeah, it'll kill her. But her AI is smart enough to know that if she's in the way of a like Leon shot, she will actually duck down, which is very nice.
No, I will say most of the time when I shot her, it's because she was on the back of someone, and I just kind of fired with the pistol a little too quick and hit her in the side. And that's more just like if somebody's carrying her, I had to keep reminding myself like, no, shoot him in the toe, shoot him in the foot, aim down, and don't use the shotgun. Do not use the shotgun. You did that. I did that. I think twice when I shot someone with a shotgun while they were holding action. Like, ooh, I immediately regret that decision. That was not smart of me. But no, I didn't mind Ashley. Most of the time, she's smart enough to get out of the way, like of yourself, stay behind me, and she'll always listen to you. Of like, go in the dumpster. Okay, come back out of the dumpster. Like you whistle and she pops her head up like a gopher. So I don't mind her. The one thing I will say I do mind about Ashley and her character is they kind of write her a bit like too sexual, and by that I'm mainly just talking about one very specific moment at the end of the game when she's like, once her and Leon, spoilers for a game that came out in 2005, her and Leon like get on the jet ski and ride off into the sunset. She's like, so we clock in some overtime after this, like kind of hitting on Leon, and Leon,
No thanks, bro.
being Leon being a man who is a good, how old is he? He's probably like mid-20s, maybe almost 30, and Ashley's like 16. He immediately is like, nope. We are not doing that. And she's like, well, had to try.
Yeah, no, and I think that I think they recognize that's a problem, because maybe I'm crazy, but I'm pretty sure they've also I don't know how exactly they treat her in the remake, but I believe they kind of age her up a bit as well, to everyone, which thank God for everyone.
Fun.
But I kind of agree, especially, and it's really not just Ashley, it's just in general. There's with the way that female characters are kind of treated here. Is it the best? We've definitely come a long way. Especially since Hunnigan kind of is just there to she's like Leon's handler, which I don't think is a bad idea for a character, and then she's kind of feeding him info and all this. But Hunnigan's also kind of there to just basically have to deal with Leon's weird flirtations with his coworker. It's just this isn't funny. You just need to stop with this.
This is just sexual harassment, Leon. This wasn't.
Yeah, Leon, we're gonna need to have you have a talk with HR real quick.
Yeah, we had to go to an HR meeting after. It's you can't just hit on your coworker. It was but she looks cuter without her glasses. Okay, that's fine, but that's not okay to say.
No, that's the Leon we're getting in Resident Evil 4 Remake. We're getting the Leon that went to those classes.
See, I almost want I would find it really funny if in the remake he just double downs on it. Leon's just a huge misogynist in the remake.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He doesn't you don't even see Handler's face because he has him blocked because of all the shit he keeps saying. It's great.
I don't blame her if she did. Just you're a disgusting pig.
But after Leon insults a few more women and then makes his way to the castle. The castle is the biggest and probably longest part of the game. Which I know some people have criticisms about, and I've been saying that's too long. And while I value everyone's opinion, these people specifically are wrong, because the castle is the most fun part of the game, in my opinion, and also has the most diversity. From at one point you're shooting catapults at each other against these other people.
Cultists.
Yeah, cultists. I couldn't think of that word for some reason. It is mainly the main kind of villain of the castle is Salazar, this weird short Napoleon dude who is constantly calling you and going, Mr. Kennedy. And he's so fun and stupid, and him and Leon have some very fun dialogue between each other. And at one point, you're chased by a giant robot version of him. Because that's just Resident Evil 4, and that just makes sense in this world. But, yeah. Robert, tell me a little bit. Do you have a favorite moment of the castle? Whether it's the Salazar fight, the two El Gigante fights, the Verdu fight, or maybe one of the other set pieces that I mentioned? Or didn't?
I think what stands out to me is the infamous water room. It's a room where when you enter, you got a bunch of shield dudes in front of you, and there's a ton of doors where enemies can come out of and take Ashley. So it could be very tense. And then as you progress through the room, you have a couple different puzzles. At first you have to go all the way back to have Ashley stand on a switch to get a lever or a staircase to come up. And then after that, you go up to this platform where you have to lift Ashley up to where she can operate a couple cranks. you have to snipe at enemies as like she's like trying to pull the crank, and it's just a very like tense moment. It's a lot of what a lot of people find is like a weed out room. It's like if you could get through this, you can get through this game.
Pretty
Like
much.
I think it's a really fun challenge. Um, and I think in my professional run, I had an easier time than my initial run, but I think that was just kind of like getting comfortable with the game. But yeah, that's probably like a highlight for me with the castle.
I can see it.
I'll definitely have to agree with Robert on this one. On my first playthrough, I didn't have that much of a problem with it, but definitely like my second playthrough on the professional difficulty, I had a bit of a rougher time with it too. Even with like the benefit of having Ashley's special suit where she's like wearing a knight armor set, even with that, I was still like having a bit of issues with that fight just because like there's just so much shit going on in it. But yeah, like it's a fairly, in the grand scheme of the game, it's actually fairly early on in the game, and Robert said it right. If you can get past that part, you best rest of the game.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't any more difficulty spikes, there definitely are. It's just that one is like, yeah, you cleared the biggest hurdle.
It's definitely. I almost forgot about it, and then once you started describing it, I was like, oh, I immediately remember where it was. Because, yeah, it's definitely a big difficulty spot, but it never, I don't know. When I got there, it felt like this is challenging, but it's also like it's fun challenging. It's what I've been doing for a while, just on a bigger scale. So I agree with you. I also enjoy that room. Seth, what about you? What was another kind of enjoyable moment? There's a lot of these because, again, the castle is one of the bigger parts of the game. But tell me a little bit about some of your favorite moments from the castle.
I really, I always stand by this. I really like the Verdugo section. Verdugo is Salazar's right-hand man, one of the two assassins they has with him. He's just this creepy dude in a cloak, and he chases Leon down into like the sort of like, I guess you could call it a basement. What the hell do you call like a castle basement? A dungeon? Let's call it that.
Let's go with that.
He chases him down there. Leon has to like, because of video game stuff, he has to wait for the elevator to come on after turning on the power, and all the while he's being stalked by Verdugo, who has a very interesting design. Once he takes off the cloak, he's like this half man, half, the best way I could describe it, xenomorph look to him, where he has like glowy eyes, mandibles on his face, he has a big ass tail and really gangly arms and legs, and he crawls on the ceiling. He's like a copyright friendly version of a xenomorph. And basically you have to hold out for like 4 minutes for the elevator to get ready.
He's taller and has a slightly less penis head than the alien.
He's a little bit less masculine.
That's good. You referenced the video I made.
Yeah.
That was good. Applaud.
But yeah, he's I think it's a cool fight because there's different ways you can approach it. You can just knock down the freeze containers, stun him for a bit, just wait until the elevator gets there and then get out. Or you can actually like use the freezing things to like unload your best weapons into him while he's frozen, kill him, and then take one of the more valuable pieces of treasure you can find in the game. Like, it's really cool that it's a really neat fight, and it's completely optional. It also has some great presentation leading up to it. One of my favorite camera shots in the game is just Leon walking around in like the dungeon. It's quiet and it's dark, and then every now and then the camera will just quickly just switch to Verdugo's point of view from his perspective, and it's just him on the ceiling just crawling really fast at Leon, and it's like super unnerving as shit. I love that part. Verdugo's like probably my favorite section of the game.
Yeah, it's one of mine as well. And it's definitely one of the more like scarier moments. I don't know. This is kind of a moment where like Leon isn't cracking as many one-liners because like, oh shoot, no, this is terrifying. Because
he doesn't have that many people to listen to him, which is the ultimate bane. It's just like, damn, I'm cracking jokes and no one wants to listen to me.
I mean, fair, but he was cracking one-liners. back at the beginning of the game, and the only people that were listening were the people he was shooting at. So
True.
but it's a very like it's probably the most horror type like moment in the game. One of my favorite things about it is after it does what Seth was talking about, where he's crawling on the ceiling and sprinting at you, you as Leon hear this loud like this bang sound, like something hitting metal. And if you actually turn around and go back to because I'm an idiot, like if I did this in a real life scenario, I would die. But you do the white guy thing and you go investigate what that noise was. And you'll see that there's just a huge dent in that like iron door that you closed that like you walked in earlier. And so now you're like, oh gosh, this thing is very powerful. So when I first played the game, I knew that there was a way to kill him because again, I saw a playthrough of it, but I didn't know if I had the resources or I was like, I don't know exactly how you did it. So I just turned the elevator on and ran, and I thought, and at least in my opinion, well, it's probably less rewarding overall. I think it's a way more fun experience of Leon just like freezing and booking it around. Like you just have to survive is the only like current objective, survive mode. And I thought that mode was so much fun. Just like, what is this thing? It's like 3 times faster than almost every other enemy in the game. And it's always just dead sprinting at you, and it's terrifying.
It's kind of like a classic movie moment where like the hero is just like, I'm definitely like outmatched here. I cannot win this fight. I have to get around it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that fight was really fun. Some other notable like moments in the castle. At one point, you fight 2 El Gigantes in a boiler room that's run by lava. Again, I don't know who made the structure of this castle, but they should be burned at the stake. Same with any like architect or like interior design person in any Resident Evil game.
At the very least, they need to get into a hospital or something. Something's not right with the people who like designed the architecture in Resident Evil's universe.
Like just imagine,
like, you okay? You okay, bud?
Just
Yeah,
imagine.
why does the RPD not have a bathroom?
Yeah. If you're just a regular worker, like you're just doing your 9 to 5, and you know, because these settings are to a haunted castle or just a regular police station, and you're just going, hey, I'm trying to go to the bathroom, but it's like, oh yeah, you have to align these 3 paintings so that the light reflects just off them and hits this stone and then unlocks the bathroom door. And it's like, let me just do my job and pee, please. Why do I have to solve puzzles all the time? It's like,
yeah. Whoever designed this is a fucking psychopath.
Jesus. But yeah, you're down in the boiler room with 2 El Gigantes, and a very fun moment. And I'm amazed I did it on my first attempt. But you're able to open up the floor, and there's probably a way to kill both of them, but I was able to immediately like insta kill one of them, like the second he walked out the door, right into the lava. Now the issue was, it took so many freaking bullets to kill the second one, but I'm just really glad I killed the first one. And immediately after that, I remember another very frustrating moment for me was immediately after that, you go into this section with like a million freaking bugs. And I hated this freaking section because I'm low on ammo. I have to solve these light puzzles and go like kind of up this weird like mountain staircase, and there's just endless swarms of bugs constantly like running at me. I'm like, fuck off. I'm out of like at one point I literally had no more pistol bullets, no more shotgun bullets. I had like a few rifle things, but I didn't want to waste them on these things. Very few either Magnum or like explosive. I just was TMPing my way for a very long time through this game, and then finally you get through all of them, and I opened a door and it was immediately crushed by a rock. Because I had to I avoided the first one and there was a second rock and I died to that. I was like, mother fuck. I had to go all the way.
It's like, yes, how foolish of you. You forgot my secret power, second rock.
Bro, second rock. God.
This just speaks to like the psychotic elements of like the architecture here again, because to get to that point, you have to redirect all those like light panels to burn down like a metal door.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. It's just there's no other way to describe it other than it's weird. It's very fucking weird.
It's just Resident Evil, and like, and that's just. At no point, it didn't feel out of place in the game, because the game is just weird, and everyone talks very weird, and it's just like, I mean, it fits perfectly in the world that they made, but like, when you take a step back and like, anytime I'm describing these scenarios, it's like, oh no, these are very weird things to be happening right now.
This is not how normal people like live.
No.
This is not what your workplace should look like.
Before I talk about the final boss of the castle, Salazar, and he's great. Let's go back and bring up a character that he was introduced much earlier, but oh god, I didn't write down his name.
Lewis.
I just realized, I was like, oh shoot, this is why I write notes. Lewis is your kind of weird partner friend that you met like earlier in the thing, and he helps you out like throughout the game. There's one very fun section during actually the village portion when you guys are like doing this home defense. It's one of the more memorable things, but unfortunately, and another like downside of the game is Lewis is not in this game for very long. He dies in the most dishonorable way a man could die in any video game pretty early on in the castle section. And that is with the final boss himself, Sadler, stabs him with his weird tentacle horn penis. And
Yeah.
I am not like just being gross for the sake of being gross. After, like, because you walk in, you're like, oh, hey, Lewis. He's like, Leon, I have like a cure, or like I found like the virus thing that you guys need. And he's immediately like impaled, and as the thing goes back and it follows back and you follow where the tail's going, it goes straight up Salazar's robe the front way, so it's not a tail, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for the man. Gosh.
Basically, Lewis got turned into like an anime schoolgirl. Unfortunately, he got beaten by tentacles.
Don't Seth. Oh my gosh, Seth, I liked I liked our jokes in the original time we recorded this one more than that. We never brought
This is the grittier, more edgy remake.
Oh god, I didn't want to bring up like hentai part. Oh god, but yeah, no, it's God, man, poor
Lewis. Yeah, especially since like
Lewis.
He's like in the little time you get to know him, he really is like just a fucking bro. He's a little bit like kind of sketchy at first. He's just trying to like sort of bug out of the situation. But
he makes a few like perverted like innuendos towards Ashley, but you know that's fine.
Yeah. We just have to grit our teeth through those parts. But like for the most part, though, he has his own sense of like charm, and he does legitimately try to help out Ashley and Leon because part of his backstory is really interesting. He's one of the researchers that help basically look into Los Plagas. He's one of the researchers who helped was able to get it to basically be compatible with like human hosts. And I think a lot of the reason why he's sort of like helping like Leon and almost said Ada, Leon and Ashley out is because like I imagine he feels some level of guilt for his involvement in that science. So he's like a scientist who knows about Las Plagas and also just happens to be really good with his with the Red 9, his really cool like old style gun.
He would not have.
So like
I did not get the scientist vibe from him when I met him.
No, you wouldn't, but he is. He's a freaking scientist.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah. He might also actually this is not an exaggeration. He might be the sexiest scientist in the Resident Evil series.
Does Wesker count as a scientist?
Actually, yeah, you're right. Actually, Wesker does do some of his own research. So, I guess Wesker does count.
Okay. But also, I will say, just all that backstory that Seth just like talked about with Lewis, that's not like if you just played the game normally, you would never know that. To actually find
you have
that
to
out,
find
you
the
have to
journal
like
entries.
look through the files and read a bunch of other stuff and like. But the game regularly, if all you did was just talk to like just go through the game, play the story normally, Lewis is just a dude. He shows up. He makes weird sexual remarks at Ashley, which again, given what Seth described as his backstory, he knows exactly how old she is. So again, weird. But moving on, he shows up, makes weird remarks, helps you out a few times, almost gives you the cure, and then dies. And it's kind of like, we're still pretty early. I don't think we're even at the halfway point when he dies, and it's just like, it's a weird thing. Like, I really wish he'd stay around longer. And I will say I'm very happy with, I haven't played the remake, but already in like the few things that we have seen with it, we see Lewis in moments of the game when Lewis should not be around, like the minecart section. Lewis is long dead when that happens, but...
Or, well, one of the cool parts from the trailer that I also got personally hyped for is the double Gigante fight, which is also one of the harder fights in the game. I think that's so cool that, like, Lewis is going to be there to help Leon out. That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool, he can distract one of them. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad
I mean,
that,
you should have been in the party when Drew was having to fight two of those Gigantes. It was something.
I can only imagine.
I forgot you were there when I was there. Because, like, it started off so high of, oh, yeah, I just killed one of them instantly. This is awesome. All right, I only have one left. And then it slowly diverted to, will you fucking die already? God fucking damn it. I have no fucking bullets anymore. Just please die.
Yeah, that is not an easy fight. I love it, though. That's another really good boss fight.
I was determined not to die.
It's so cool to have, like, Lewis there, and it makes so much sense, I feel like, in my opinion, to have, like, your bro backing you up against the Gigante duo.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that moment.
And also, I do want to add one more thing with this. I will say that, like, the remakes are not afraid to, like, break away from how, like, the stories go in the originals, because Carlos in Resident Evil 3 survives in the remake, even though he doesn't in the original.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they might make some changes.
Maybe he will. Maybe he will make it to the end. You'll have to wait and see, because the remake.
And maybe he'll tone down on the sexual comments towards a minor thing.
My guessing for the remake is everyone's doubling down on their worst traits. So I'm thinking he's going to amp it up. I think he's going to
get worse.
Everyone's going to get worse. He'll start making comments, and then also start being sexual towards Leon. He'll be like,
That's okay.
He's like, oh, you're a police officer. Is that a baton in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? And Leon's just like, God fucking damn it. Moving on. The last big moment of the castle is a boss fight against Salazar, the little Napoleon dude that has been making weird jokes and weird phrases towards Leon this entire time. And at this point, I realized something incredibly fun. So throughout the game, which I guess we never actually talked about, the merchant, this mysterious creature that would just keep saying, "What are you buying?
Creature.
What are you saying?" He's not human. You cannot convince me that man is human. You cannot convince me that person is human or doesn't have some parasite. The way he's able to teleport in front of you, basically, just always know. I'm not calling that dude human. You never see his real face.
He has to have some kind of parasite in him, because there's like very specific occasions in the game where he has like red eyes.
And also,
it's never brought up why, and it only happens like 2 times.
Yeah, and also, why are you in the sewer with me right now, dude? Like, how did you get here and set up a shop?
He did set up a shop with a bunch of munitions you can't buy.
Yes,
maybe he's kind of like Wesker. He's become the ultimate life form. He's become he's gained some sort of control over the parasites.
He's the secret boss. He's just Salazar in disguise who just keeps allowing you to buy weapons to kill him. But anyway, throughout him, you can buy upgrades. As Robert said, and one of the most frustrating things, you can't buy ammo from him. You can't buy ammunition. You can just buy upgrades for your gun. I would love some more bullets, man, but sure. I guess make me shoot faster. But another thing you can buy on top of that is a rocket launcher. And these things are one-time use. You only get one of them throughout the game, and you kind of have to like go to a different area and like find it. It's a bit of a secret. But you get one of them through the game, or you can just keep buying them. They're very expensive, but you can buy them from him. And I remember playing through the game, and I was like, "Oh, I'll wait till the end." I didn't know how good they were. The one that like they gave me, I kind of I had to empty out my inventory, grabbed it. And I think I immediately used it on like a mini boss or something that was not worth using it on. But I remember I went and I fought the Salazar fight normally, just kind of see what it was, and I did die, but it was also kind of like, this is more just a test run. I wanted to see how it went. So I was like, okay, I'll start out with the rocket launcher. I immediately came in. I think I hit him one time with the rifle, shot him with the rocket launcher, insta-kill. And I was like, oh, well, this thing is an interesting way. It's just a skip boss. And I'm like, I wonder if this works later. There's a moment where you fight a character named Krauser. And I was just testing to see if this would work. And it did. And I one-shot Krauser. Then I'm like, okay, there's no way that it works 3 out of 3 times. I went to the final boss, Sadler, and just hit him once, got him into a vulnerable state, hit him with the rocket launcher, immediately triggered the part of the game where, okay, now you have to finish him. I'm like, okay, so the rocket launcher is basically just a skip boss fight if you have enough money to do it, if you saved up enough.
It's like the old classic meme of "I'll pay you $100 to fuck off." That is what that is the rocket launcher in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I love that thing too. I think it's always been kind of like a staple of like the Resident Evil games that like the rocket launcher is the thing that puts down the
big boss.
Yeah, that puts down like the big boss. That's the best way to put it. So now you can actually purchase them, and it is cool that like if you just save up enough on your resources, or heck, if you just find it while you're searching around and you know where to look, you can get one of those like rocket launchers and just body the shit out of like whatever boss you're fighting.
Yeah, and it's just like it's so fun that the game allows for this kind of just dumbness and just fun, because that was such a fun moment of just like, oh, and I killed it. Okay, well, I guess I just leave now. It's such a fun moment. I will say, and we'll get to it when we talk about the island, I kind of wish I didn't use it as much on the other two fights, but I'm really glad I used it against Salazar. It was a fun kind of just like, and I'm gonna skip this moment. So,
yeah. I think it's cool. Although it is like you said, you're gonna mention it. It is a shame that you did use on Krauser, because that is a pretty fun boss fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would work. I didn't think it would let me.
I wish you would use that on like the fucking like bridge troll dude that I can't even remember the name of.
I should have used. Well, I didn't. I bought it after the bridge troll. We'll get to it. Before we get to the islands. And because I kind of already started talking about weapons, let's talk about one of, in my opinion, the greatest inventory system in all of video game. The wonderful, the glorious attaché case. So, it's very simple how it works. It literally is, everything is divided up into these, like, blocks. I don't know exactly how big you can get the attaché case, but everything kind of just, you have to just fit your inventory in there. Like your gun will be like 4x2, and you just have to kind of finagle it to make sure it fits there with your ammo, with your grenades, with everything. And there's something so aesthetically pleasing about when you have like your attaché case organized exactly how you want it, and it looks very pretty, and It is one of my favorite inventory systems in all of video games. Robert, what about you? What are your thoughts on the attaché case? It's also just a fun thing to say.
I think it's really fun to mess with. I always like to just play around and just have my inventory laid out a certain way. Like, I like my guns all being on the left because that's where it starts you when you, like, open your inventory. So all my guns are there. I like to keep my healing items in, like, the top left, so I know that's where they all are. The ammo in the bottom right because I'm barely going to have to, like, mess with it. And then kind of keep, like, any weapon attachments towards, like, the bottom or middle. And there's, like, everyone kind of has their own way of laying it out. And if you do it right, you really can fit a lot more stuff in it than if you just kind of threw stuff in there and just called it a day. So I think it's a great system.
Oh, that is great. There were multiple times I was just texting you guys pictures of just like, check out my organization skill. Like, not clips of like, oh, me doing anything cool or like anything else. Like, bro, my organization kills with this thing are amazing. Look at how clean it looks. So it's great.
It is very cool. And I will also say that like another like kind of like neat thing about it is like it also like just to reiterate how well this game just trains you at getting better at the game. It really makes you good at like remembering the recipes to where you just like, oh yeah, I'm just like gonna slap together like red and green herb or green herb or red green yellow herb. Yeah. Like it's kind of cool that like just how much it was ingrained in me. I was just naturally doing it in the remake demo, like on instinct. Like I just like, yeah, I know how to do this with the herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing in the demo. I was like panicking. I was trying to like craft like a healing item. Just instantly did it. Like the controls are the exact same. Like it's really awesome.
They're fun. So, and it's good to see it. The attaché case, he's back for the remake. But let's now move on to the final part. And I could be wrong about this, but I believe this is actually technically the shortest part of the game because it's mainly focused on like big boss fight like enemies and like big encounters. But there's not too many of them. It's the islands area, and this is where we find the U3, or as Sadler puts it, just it, which is the weird like worm tentacle thing, where we find some of people's favorite boss fight in the entire game, Krauser, and also where you beat Lord Sadler himself, the big final boss. So
the big cheese.
Yes.
No, the big cheese was the chief.
Oh yeah. Well, he's the bigger cheese.
Yeah, the big cheese. Seth, tell me a little bit about the island and what's kind of some of your favorite moments from it.
I will say that, and I kind of get the sentiment why the island tends to be the most maligned part of RE4. Some people, even though it's pretty short in comparison to other parts of the game, if some people say like goes on for too long, it is mostly like a lot of like boss fights, but also like tougher encounters because you're now encountering like armored Ganados with like the stun sticks. There's a lot of little different ways that this area can kind of get pretty annoying, and I could definitely understand why people feel that way. I'm trying to think of like my favorite part. You know, I kind of joked about it, but I do think the bridge part is kind of neat, where you're fighting an enemy that you can't kill quite yet. You have to get off the bridge first. It's a bridge made up of, if I remember correctly, cargo containers,
Yes.
and basically
That's
you were just
over
going
an
from
empty
part
abyss. That's just like a
Yeah.
bottomless pit for some reason.
After
Once
being
again.
chased by a giant robot.
Yeah, after being chased by a giant
Yep.
robot, you're crossing this bridge, and you're just, oh wait, so this isn't the island, is it?
No, this is the island.
Well, no, the robot part happens in the
It's-
castle, right?
It's the very end of the castle.
No, because
Yeah.
Robert, because you... No, that's not true, because you beat Sadler before you find this thing. It's your first big... Because you beat Sadler, and then you get on the boat with Ada. Again, I played this like 2 days ago, so it's very fresh in my
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Drew's right, actually, yeah. Like, no, it is on the island. My bad.
Yeah, you beat
so yeah,
Sadler, and you get on. And he tells you, like, hey, don't worry, watch out for it.
That's right. Yeah. No, I should have known this because I also got through that part like literally just a couple days ago. Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that part. I like the part where like it's just like a big the design of the creature is not all that great. It's just a big once again amalgamation of different body parts just chasing you around and it just wants you dead. Um, but I will say that what kind of makes that sequence so cool is you can't really. I believe there's no way you can kill it on the bridge until you get off because that's when the fight starts proper. But basically, you're just evading this thing, going around through this maze, flipping switches so you can move from container to container, all while under the threat of this invincible creature and your platform dropping at the same time. It's a pretty tense part, but I like it.
I will say that moment is super fun. What I think is not actually fun is when you actually have to fight him. Because it's essentially just ring around the rosy around this like big area. And one thing that I was super disappointed with, and it's like one of the few times this happens in this game, because most of the time the game never tells you what to do. It's very smart and just like you just have to pick up on like visual clues to do it. And the only thing other than like this big circle area like against you and this thing are these gates that you can close, which the gates don't even work on him because he can just knock it over. So I thought, oh, this is really smart. I bet how I'm supposed to do this is like get him under the gate and like I can close it on him and maybe that'll do some damage or like he'll get stuck. No, that's not how it works. I did that and he just clipped through it and it was like, oh wow, that did not look good. He just kind of popped in and then just kind of popped out. So that was a very like disappointing thing. And then other than that, it's just like the actual fight was just kind of like boring. Actually, compared to all the other fights that happen around it, and even like the chase scene before it, it was like Seth said, it was really fun. But when you actually get to fight the thing, it just kind of just fell a little short to me. And
yeah, he's basically just big enemy with big health pool. That's really it. Like, there's nothing really special about him. Not even compared to the Gigantes. You know, it's just like he's just a big ugly dude.
Because at least with the Gigantes, like you're always fighting them in an interesting area. Like with the first one, you have the dog helping you out, and you have some other things around the environment you can mess with to like help you. And the second time, you have the big lava floor that you can mess around, and then you can climb up the cage and zip line down so you can get behind them. This thing is just like, it has a big rock in the middle and a gate that doesn't work. And that's it. Like, there's nothing else to do other than just run, shoot him. Like, there's no, like, the environment you fight him in isn't very, interesting. At least in my opinion.
It's not very inspired, yeah.
So.
No, I definitely completely agree with the Drew. It's not the fight itself; it's the chase that makes that sequence fun.
Yeah,
the island is just very combat heavy, like even more so compared to the rest of the game. So I do agree that it tends to be the weaker part of the game because the boss fights aren't quite as exciting, save for one, and it's just a lot of fighting. And I know that for some players, and honestly, kind of myself included, it's a little exhausting to get through.
Yeah, fair. But speaking of the one fight that does make up for it, because this is arguably some people's like favorite moment in the game, and that's the lead up and the knife fight against Krauser. Robert, would you be able to tell us a little bit about the fights against Krauser?
So there's a couple different fights with Krauser. The first time you run into him, it's like a big quick time event fight. So it's like if you put your controller down, Leon's gonna get killed.
Did that by accident a few times?
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely did that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the cutscene, I'm fine. Oh,
yeah. Eventually, you're in like this ruins part where you're being like kind of hunted by Krauser. So you're trying to solve some puzzles and have to wait on like some doors to open while kind of trying to stay alive. But eventually you have like this big showdown on the top of one of the buildings. You got 3 minutes till bombs go off and blow all of you up. And you're pit 1-on-1 versus Krauser. And there's a couple ways you could do this fight. You could do it like how Drew did it, where you just blow him up to smithereens. Or you could do it the fun way, which is make it a knife fight.
Yeah.
So Krauser is weak to knives. This is something that Seth kind of brought up when we originally did this podcast, which was the cutscene before where you're doing the fight is kind of a hint on how you should be playing it. Where Leon like has like his arsenal, but he uses a knife, and there's a reason for that. It's because he's vulnerable to it. So it's like this really interesting knife fight. And what I tend to do is try to like get him in a corner, and then you could just spam the knife over and over, and he can't do much about it. But it's just a really fun fight to play in general.
It is. It's a really cool fight. He just bounces around this arena, lays down traps, and it's just such a overly masculine bro fight. This dude does not have his shirt on. That's his biggest damaging attack. Is the psychological damage he does to you because of his like biceps. And it's such a cool fight because like it's funny because like I remember like first time I played this, I didn't know about the knife tactic. I tried to use the Magnum against them, the broken butterfly, and that did not work. I was like, damn, why am I struggling with this? And then I looked up a little bit of stuff, and people were like, you should be using the knife. It's like, oh, that makes way more sense. And it's funny because at first it's kind of scary. It's like, I don't want to try to get close to him. You see how much he fucks you up with that knife, but that's actually the way you're supposed to fight him. So I think that's just really smart design. And it's also one of the parts I'm most looking forward to in the remake, especially with the parry button. Oh, man. Oh, man. I can't wait to basically play Sekiro 2 against fucking Krauser.
It's a super fun fight, and it's like definitely it's definitely a more like personal fight. And I think it's so cool that like the game heavily hints at you and like really encourages you like get up right next to him. And even like a moment that I really liked, and I didn't notice it every time, but some of the times when you would like get right next to him and like if you shot him and made him do like his back away thing, I don't know if he would say anything, but a few times when I would come up and hit him like with the knife and then make him jump away, he's like, "Oh, well, nice job, Leon," or "Good hit, Leon." Like he'll kind of almost compliment you, almost mocking you, but also like it's the game's subtle way of just saying like, "That's how you do it. Keep doing that thing." And so like the build up to like the final like big showdown with Krauser is super fun and great. And then at one moment he gets a big like arm sword or whatever, and that was the moment where I was like, I wonder if this works. And I just like shot him in the ankles with an RPG, and yeah, that works. Yeah, that works.
It were real good.
He's vulnerable to knives, but he's also vulnerable to explosives. It's just
yeah,
like,
so
all
you
right.
know.
Doesn't take a genius to figure that one out.
Who would have guessed? Yeah, didn't realize how powerful that thing would be. I knew it was strong. I knew it's like the strongest weapon in the game, but like, it one shot him. He was done. So that was fun. But Krauser is probably like one of my favorite was probably one of my favorite like bosses like in the game. Even though I did kill him like that. But
he is also like much like Salazar, as we mentioned before. He does have his own unique charm to him as well. Like there is something about like, hey, comrade, and he's just like he feels like he walked in on the wrong fucking movie, but it's so fucking great. Like he feels like an antagonist from like Rambo, not Resident Evil, but he works somehow here.
I mean, he definitely does. Like he definitely has the Rambo inspired like outfit with the whole like the sash around his head and the war paint. It's just like, yeah, this is.
And also and we'll get into this later, but in the mercenaries mode, he does use the explosive tip bow and arrow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he does, and he just had a lot of big like Rambo references. So.
In general, I think we're just recognizing that with the Aliens references, the Thing reference, and now Rambo, that Resident Evil 4 is actually just a big homage to 80s movies.
I'm fine with that, because it's referencing the really good 80s movies, too, so I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, Drew, it's almost like you should have played this game earlier.
I'm fine. We'll get to it eventually. I'll wait another like good 10 years before playing the remake just to really make you guys upset about it. So.
I mean, that's fine. You're only doing yourself a disservice.
It's fun watching everyone get mad. So the last fight is against the Mr. Sadler himself, and this one is kind of like where you get back to like, okay, this is the classic Resident Evil boss of like big kind of spider scorpion like thing, and you shoot the big eye and then stab the little eye, or shoot the little eye and then just blow up the big one with an RPG. And then Ada's like, here's another special RPG. And then you just do it again. That's my interpretation of that fight. That's all I have for it. I don't know if there's much else. How did you enjoy the final boss of the game?
I mean, that's really it. It's just, he is big enemy. You take him out. And I guess maybe, we don't really need to get too much into, like, make the boss. Don't give it too many gimmicks. It's the final fight. It's the final stretch. Give the player what they want. You fight him down. You get the big rocket launcher. You blow it up. Classic Resident Evil. Yeah. I'm not too in love with the boss fight itself because, like we mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. Salazar's design in his monster form is pretty grody, where he's, like, his body's sort of hanging there and there's all the rest of it just fucking chilling out.
One disappointment, I will say, he never tried to attack you with his penis tentacle.
That's a big disservice, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
Can't play the game.
You should have had a moment where like you dodged it and then like cut it off with your knife, and then was like, that one was for Lewis.
Nah, you're just like, you're not gonna fuck my ass this time.
Yeah. You're not getting me in the butt this time.
You're not getting my butthole.
You're not getting these cheeks. These cheeks are saved for Ada and no one else. Leon's a pure and gentle soul. Gosh. I want to bring up this joke. I know we talked about Lewis in a while. I want to bring up this joke that we had in the original of after Lewis was stabbed by that penis tentacle, he's just looking at Leon and is like, what just happened? And Leon's just like, it was his hand. It was his arm. Just keep looking at me. Don't look at the tentacle. It was his arm. It was his arm.
He grabbed the sword and stabbed you.
Yeah, it was like, Leon, it looks like it's going up his skirt. Nope, you're just seeing things. You're just seeing things come up. Leon's just like loading his gun, like about to take him out. It's like, it's better if you die by my hands than by whatever the hell that thing was.
It's better if you don't know.
It's better if you don't know. Just close your eyes, brother.
It's like a look at the flowers moment, but instead of look at the flowers, it's don't look at his dick.
Don't look at his dick. Don't look at his what? Oh God, I said it. Ah, shoot.
Say what?
Not saying that's the thing that killed you. Just saying it's
out. Just but like it was his arm. It was still his arm. It was just his arm. Don't worry about it. It was the arm, Lewis. I promise. The next time Leon's like sees Ashley, Ashley's like, Leon, what happened to Lewis? He's like, I don't want to fucking talk about it. I do not want to talk about it. Please do not ask me what happened to Lewis. Please.
There's a big sign. Don't ask me what happened to Lewis.
We don't talk about Lewis. Oh my gosh, but yeah, that is actually everything with Resident Evil. Because after you beat the boss, you go in the sunset. Ashley makes some weird remark to you, and Leon's like, I am not trying to catch a case. No, we're not doing that. And then right off into the sunset. Very kind of Western ending that we have there. So, Resident Evil 4, it's a game that definitely held up the test of time. It's still very enjoyable, even playing it for the first time in 2023. But the whole point of the reason we're doing this podcast is because of the remake that is coming out soon. So, Seth, I will start with you. What are your biggest hopes for Resident 4, remake? What are some things that we've talked about a few already, but what are some of the things that you hope they change, or you hope that this should not be touched? This should just be exactly one for one as it was. Back in the day.
Well, they're getting rid of the having to stand your ground kind of like mentality of gameplay.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be, although I liked it in the classic, I understand definitely like to modernize the game. Yeah, it's probably much better to allow the player to be just in generally more mobile, so that's good. Adding in a parrying mechanic just tends to make your game just better all around, like period. Like that's like probably like that's at least a good 10% reason of why Hi-Fi Rush just suddenly became Game of the Year material. Was like, oh yeah, here's the part where you learn to parry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
parrying, very, very important, very good. I think there's just a lot of quality of life stuff that we generally talked about, like improvements to Ashley, giving Lewis more screen time, all these things, just, you know, improve on and like maybe make the island a little bit paced better, you know, more enjoyable than how it was in the classic. Because you're really following up RE4, which for all intents and purposes, I could probably say is like a perfect video game in a lot of ways. So I know that's like kind of like a bit of an exaggeration, but like just looking at this game, it's just done such a good job of standing the test of time, even despite its like more aged controls. I think it still holds up wonderfully. Yeah, I really, the only thing I'm thinking of is I hope some of the moments are even scarier in RE4 Remake. Like, I hope that they make Verdugo the most intense shit you've ever experienced. So I hopefully, like, they can use the remake as an opportunity to just make it even better, you know?
I can see that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Robert, what about you? What are your kind of dreams, hopes, or you know, maybe even things you want to change for the remake?
The first thing is give Ashley a gun. I am an advocate for giving Ashley a gun.
Or here's my proposal. You can also let Ashley be able to do a suplex without a glitch.
That's my.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's my vote. Is let Ashley do some wrestling moves. Let her. I want to see Ashley just like Batista bomb somebody, like throw an RKO on Salazar.
So Drew, funny history about that. It used to be a glitch that was only available in the GameCube version of the game, but good old Resident Evil 4 players to this day finally figured out a way to get it to work on PC. So now they can get Ashley to fucking do suplexes.
Yeah, the suplex was like a big thing I wanted back, and then one of the trailers confirmed it, and I was like, yes! The next thing is, this is a pipe dream, but there's a really fun glitch in the original, like, 2005 version of RE4 is called the Ditman glitch, where if you get the striker shotgun, and you start to hold, like, press right trigger to, like, aim the gun, right after pressing right trigger, you pause the game and switch weapons, and it was discovered by this guy named Ditman, called the Ditman glitch. Well, you start to basically speed up to like 1.5 times faster for most actions. This includes firing some of your weapons. So like the TMP with the Ditman glitch is fucking broken because it's like firing like 1.5 times faster. You run so much faster, you climb faster. It is really fun to mess with. And I don't know if it's going to come back. Probably not, because that's how the attaché case is the glitch of the attaché case.
Yeah.
But man, that was so fun to mess with.
They should just add
Because you could even skip like boss fights with it.
Yeah.
Like the double Gigante fight, when you get on like the zip line, you go faster on that too. So like you could just clip through the wall and then just run past the fight. In the last scene of the game, where like you get on the the jet ski with Ashley, in the game it's only the GameCube version, but Leon just zips away floating on air. Ashley's just sitting there. It's so ridiculous. And it's probably not coming back, but god dang, I really want it.
Gosh, what does he say? I remember I was really weird. What does he say? Like, he calls Ashley something when he like first gets on that. It's like, what does he call it? Toots or something? Like, get on toots or get on sweet something?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but yeah, like it's I remember. I know exactly what it is because the kind of the interesting thing about that is that like the Ditman glitch has kind of become like a historical staple of like the speedrunning community for not just Resident Evil but just kind of everything there. So while I don't see them bringing back that glitch explicitly, I don't think it's that far-fetched to believe they might throw in some sort of like reference to it because they've got to know that this thing existed because it was so infamous.
They should
It's
just
in
have
every
it like
version of the game, and they had every chance to patch it out.
Yeah.
Out of like the classic, yeah. I don't know if it would return in remake, but I could definitely see them like referencing it somehow, which would be fun.
Like, there should be a mode just called like Ditman mode or something, and it's essentially like it's turbo mode. Like, not only are you significantly faster, but like so are all the enemies. Like everything's just moving like double speed. It's just like, oh god, we're running, we're moving, we're diving. I think that'd be fun.
Okay, yeah, I could definitely see something like that being referenced. At least that would be cool.
But guys, is there anything else you want to talk about with Resident Evil Classic or RE Remake? I'm just gonna open the floor up this time.
I will go ahead and do like a couple of my spiels, which is about like the extra modes that you unlock after beating the game, which is, as Robert pointed out in like the last podcast, that didn't make it to air, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. These are things that they have added in over the course of time. So like one of them is called Separate Ways. This is a campaign, this time told from the perspective of Ada, who we haven't really talked about much in this video. She is basically Leon's, I don't want to say girlfriend, because that's definitely not it.
Because love interest is a better, or like...
Love interest is probably right. Yeah. Like on and off love interest, femme fatale kind of character. She's cool. She's fun. Yeah. She's back in this game. She has a really fun, like kind of flirtatious dynamic with Leon throughout the game. When you play her campaign, you kind of see things from her perspective, and basically it shows that she was there at like different sequences of events that kind of helped Leon out, such as like ringing the bell to get all the villagers away from Leon and such. She also, I believe, might have recovered like one of the vials that Lewis drops when he dies, something along those lines. Yeah. A lot of that campaign, though, is mostly just playing through the same levels you did in RE4's campaign, but kind of backwards. And except for one section where she's fighting on like a boatyard or something, or a shipyard rather. It's fine. It's a fun enough campaign. There's not really enough new thrown in it. Plus, it tends to be a little bit more difficult because Ada doesn't have as much health. She tends to take more damage, and she can't upgrade her weapons. So it just does make the DLC just in general a little bit more difficult. It might be worth a run through since it's fairly short, only about a couple hours long, but it's okay. But hey, you do at least get an appearance of Wesker at the end, so that's kind of neat. So there's that. There's Assignment Ada, which is just a challenge mode type deal, if you're really into that shit. And then there's the Mercenaries, which is also a challenge mode idea, but I really like it. Basically, in the Mercenaries mode, it's a score attack mode where you're given a limited amount of time. You need to survive till the end of the time, and you're just trying to rack up as much of a high multiplier and combo score as you can. And by doing that, by extending your time, finding items, and killing enemies, you unlock stars for each map when you complete them. The more stars you unlock, the more characters you unlock. And it's really cool because like you start with Leon, of course, but then you unlock Ada. Then you unlock Krauser and Hunk and Wesker even. And they all have like really cool, unique things about them that make them unique to play, whether it's their loadout or like certain abilities. I say this just because when I decided to come back to the game, I booted up the Mercenaries mode, and I actually found it to be as a person who's not really into like these score attack or challenge modes, I actually found it to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to also see that Mercenaries is also returning in Resident Evil 4 Remake.
So, Seth, before you go on too far, I want to ask you a little bit about Mercenaries. Tell me about how different you already said a little bit of how Ada plays during Ada mission. How different do characters like Hunk and Wesker and Krauser, like how different do those guys play to Leon and Ada, like in the Mercenaries mode?
Yeah, I won't get too into it. I think, but they all have unique play styles. And I will say that like one of the most unique ones is Krauser. Just to give you, he's a good example of how different these characters can feel. Krauser is only equipped with his bow and arrow, which is decently effective. But what makes him really good is after he does a certain amount of damage or kills against enemies, his arm starts to glow. Then you can activate a mode where he like turns on his arm, lunges forward, and just decimates everything in his path, even like boss type enemies. He is my favorite character to play as. He is broken in a very good way that I feel like makes this mode very fun. So I definitely think that Mercenaries mode is at least worth a playthrough just because of how fun all the characters are. Not to mention, not to mention that you also unlock a really cool weapon at the end, the hand cannon, which is a infinite ammo magnum. So yeah, that is the Mercenaries mode. One more thing I want to add on to, and this is the last thing I really want to talk about with RE4 Classic, is you also get, whenever you're playing the game, you can upgrade your weapons. One thing I found that was really cool is each weapon has an exclusive upgrade. Something I've told Drew when he first started playing this game was that you can really pick one weapon and kind of stick with it throughout the game. The ammo drops will kind of adapt to it. It might be a bit of a pinch, but you can absolutely do that. And each weapon has a unique, like, exclusive upgrade to it. Like, it does more damage. It has, like, a really massive magazine or something along those lines. Even Leon's starting pistol, which you're probably going to end up getting rid of for some sort of better pistol, is actually pretty damn useful once you get the exclusive upgrade. Its exclusive upgrade is it increases its chances for criticals dramatically, making it one of the best pistols in the game, actually.
Interesting. I didn't realize that the starting pistol was like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really cool that like the game even allows you to do that. Yeah. So yeah, like the upgrade system is really cool. I'm really excited to see what they'll do with the upgrade system in RE4 Remake, especially since you'll also be able to do the same with the knife. I don't know what the exclusive upgrade with the knife is going to be, but I hope it'll be something badass.
That's because the knife is the most.
Hopefully, it's something cooler than just like infinite durability.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's like a cop out.
Yeah. Plus, infinite durability sounds more like not an exclusive upgrade and more like a thing you unlock at the end of like a professional run or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there should be I just had an idea for. And this might be a DLC mode, and I don't know how the game works, but like, what if there's just like a knife-only thing, like, where all you get is just health drops and like your knife just doesn't break, but you never get a pistol and you never get a weapon, and like there's just a mode that's just knife-only.
That could be fun, or at least I could see them definitely putting up like an achievement or something of the sort to encourage players to play in that style. I just remembered something. Resident Evil Village did make an unlockable that you could get that's essentially a lightsaber that can change colors between red, green, and blue. And it was interesting because like red does more damage, green when you attack enemies actually heals you back, and I don't know what blue does. I think it's just blue.
Blue looks cool.
Yeah, blue's for basic people who like who like their Jedi very simple.
All right, hey, chill, because that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's the lightsaber color I pick most of the time. I mean, you need to calm down.
Yeah, but No, like, so I don't know if they would do that, but heck, I mean, they have set a precedent that they will give like the player like a lightsaber, so maybe they'll do the same here.
Oh, I would love Leon with a lightsaber. That'd be amazing.
It'd
I
make the
don't think
Krauser fight really fun.
They give. What if in that mode, that's the one time Krauser also has a lightsaber? It's just cue up
I tell
duel
you
of
what,
fates.
the modding scene would have a field day with it.
Oh my gosh, they would love. Okay.
Have you guys already seen the mods? But I'm sorry, but like this is so off track. But have you already seen the mods with like the Resident Evil 4 demo where
I've seen a couple of them.
they replaced Leon with Raiden's skin from Metal Gear Rising?
No, I haven't seen that one.
That one's good. That's a good one.
Also, oh shit, I just remembered another really good mod is, and it's because it's in the same engine that Devil May Cry 5 is in. They ported over Virgil and replaced Leon with him.
That's amazing.
That's great. You should just be able to do like Judgment Cut, like just do
If
it.
if anybody could do it, it would be modders.
Yeah.
I know I pre-ordered the new one for PS5, but I'm like, if the mods are that good, I'm gonna go buy this game on Steam too.
Oh,
Just for modding.
No joke, that's not a bad idea because the mods in Resident Evil for all the Resident Evil games pretty much have been just so like peak. They've been so good. So yeah, I think you should.
Okay. Well, I think that is unless there's anything else, but I believe that is
I
everything.
mean, I never got a chance to get.
Oh, I'm
Coulter
sorry.
done.
You're my fault. My fault, Robert.
Seth went on for some.
Seth did get. I'm sorry.
Seth.
Yeah, Seth had multiple points. No, that's my bad. Robert, what is Is there anything else you want to talk about with either RE original or RE remake or anything else we didn't touch on?
A couple things we didn't touch on real quick. So just a couple things about like the Ada campaign. The first one is that it was not introduced in the GameCube version. It was added with the PS2 version, and the cutscene quality is still PS2. So it's very like blurry and chunky compared to like the main games like cutscenes. Because they like add stuff through the different versions of RE4. Between like GameCube to PS2 to Wii to the HD version, they always like add something new to the game, whether it's a different mode or a different gun, just to kind of give you more incentive to like play
Go
the new
back.
version.
Yeah.
And then something that I really like about how they're handling like the remake is that they're not eliminating the need to play the original. Like, there is just as much merit to play the original game as there is with the remake.
Yeah.
So, if you want to play the 2005 version still after remake comes out, there's just enough reason to, because remake isn't, like, completely doing the same thing. Remake is doing its own thing, which kind of lets the two stand apart.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, like, the best way they could really approach this. Kind of like how they did with like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, where yes, they're going to feel so much more like modern compared to the originals, but there's still reasons to play the originals over like the remakes.
It's not like the Dead Space 1 like remaster where it's like it's very one for one. There are new things and like new story beats, but like it almost makes it hard.
Yeah, like
the first
the
one
remake for the new Dead Space definitely like kind of. I know some people might argue against me on this, but it does render the old version of Dead pretty much obsolete. Whereas this one does seem to be like these versions of remakes seem to be all about not like trying to like replace the remakes. They are about just enhancing them.
Yeah.
Or not enhancing, trying to give a different take is probably the better way to put it. These are different interpretations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which there's an argument to be had for either one, but I think it's important to like distinguish the two. That like no, you're like the classic will always still be there and be the classic. This is just a different take. No, that's fair.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Remember, was there another point?
No, that was it.
All right, sounds good. I just want to make sure. No, not skipping over one. Well, I believe that is everything though with RE4 Remake. As we said, it's on like basically almost any console you can get nowadays. Not super expensive. So I say it's definitely a must play, especially before the remake comes out. But
Or hell, even after.
or even after, yeah, who knows? But that is everything for RE4 Classic. Now, as we finish up every podcast with this, we are on our Fresh Picks of the Week. This is what we've been either playing, watching, or listening to this past week. Robert, why don't you start us off? What have you been? What have you been up to?
So I've got two picks. I have a digestible pick and a fresh pick.
Ah,
So I'll start with the digestible pick because it's pretty relevant to RE4. So there's this game called Save Room, which I got for like $1 off of a bundle, and it's basically just a puzzle game based off of the attaché case from RE4. So you get like your drop box or whatever on the right, and you have to fit everything in like very specific grids, kind of like how you would fit stuff in the case in RE4. And that's pretty much the game. You got 30 puzzles, and if you got a couple hours, it's a way to kill time if you really liked the attaché case in RE4. Otherwise, there's really not much reason to play it. I just kind of got it because it would be something to mess with for $1.
Robert.
If I had to pick,
Yeah.
though, I would probably not recommend unless you really just liked it, like the case.
It's probably more run than fresh. It's edible at the very least, or digestible.
It's about to expire, but not quite. You
Yeah.
can still consume it.
So, like,
But-
if you're gonna eat it quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just
I
to
like making
add
food
on
puns.
to Robert's take on it as well, just to go into even more crazy versions of RE4 Remake. If you're interested in trying out the VR version of RE4 Remake, which apparently has been received very well, the VR version is just the Resident Evil 4 base classic version, but is now in a VR format, and apparently it's really good. It has like the mercenaries mode as well as some expansions to that. It also has a mini game mode that is just focused on messing around with your attaché case. So if you have like $500+ to spare and you don't mind giving your soul over to Facebook, there you go. There's an option for you.
Yeah, and I think that the RE4 remake is going to get a VR version for PlayStation VR 2.
That's what I've heard as well, which is sounds very exciting. I'm gonna be getting like I will be picking up RE4 Remake on Xbox just because I've gotten all the Resident Evil games I've played on the Xbox, but I will also probably end up picking it up on PlayStation 5 as well, just to play the VR mode. I'm thinking about doing that just for Village VR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched the Digital Foundry. It looks like pretty cool. But my fresh pick of this week is Metroid Prime Remastered. So this was something that Nintendo just kind of surprise drops back in like February. Like, hey, Metroid Prime now on Switch. And I picked up a physical copy of the game. And Metroid Prime's a game that I dabbled with before on the GameCube, but I didn't get too far into it. I tried it a bit on officially the PC official quote unquote version of Prime Hack, where you could play a mouse and keyboard.
The Fresh
But I
Podcast.
didn't
The
get
Fresh
too far
Podcast does
there.
not sponsor ROM or stealing of any non-original content. I just feel like I need to say that. I don't know why. I just felt the need to say that. I felt like there was a sniper rifle pointed at me right now. Just kind of had a
Yeah.
Just kind of had a brief moment. Just want to make that clarity. We don't support anything like that. You know, play the original releases. Anyway, Robert, keep going. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, you.
Yeah, so Metroid Prime Remastered was released with remastered and modernized controls, so it plays more like a standard first-person shooter. Though I would just call it a first-person shooter because it's more of like a exploration action game. But what Metroid Prime does really well is that it has one of like the best like atmospheres I've seen in like a game. Like the world of Talon 4 is so fleshed out, and there's like so much like lore and stuff put into the game that you just want to like learn more about it. And the levels are like really fun to explore too and connect in such a good way, where it's like you can go between like there's like 5 different areas you can go between, and there's always like different routes to go through different like parts of it. And there's a lot of like little secrets that you could see with like subtle things like this wall might have a little bit more cracks into it and stuff like that. Like that's like what Metroid does so well, is how like it encourages you to keep finding secrets. And it's like kind of baked into the core design of the game, because you would think getting all the upgrades is like the key to beating the game, which you'd be half right. The way you actually finish the game is through finding like specific like artifacts to use at the very start of the game, start of the game world. So you're basically going on a big scavenger hunt, but it's a really fun and lore-rich scavenger hunt. So I can't recommend this game enough if you just want something really fun to like immerse yourself into. And if you got $40 in a Switch, I'd say go for it.
Yeah. All right. Good to hear. Well,
Also, not condoning anything, but I did see someone on their how should I put this? Nintendo sanctioned Steam Deck also running Metroid Prime Remastered as well, and it looked pretty good on there. So there's a lot of places you can play this game, surprisingly.
You know what's another fun way to play this game?
The remastered looks really nice too compared to the original.
You know,
like they touched up the game real good.
A great way to play this game is on the original console that was also meant to play, which is how everyone that I know plays it. Or the remaster, which is just on the standard Nintendo Switch. Don't shoot me, Nintendo. Anyway.
Miyamoto, put the rifle down.
Miyamoto, please. Seth, what game did you legally purchase and then play through no copyright means?
Let's see. What gotta find something legal? I'm joking.
Oh.
I didn't. I technically paid for this game, I guess, but I got it through Game Pass. I recommend it.
Yeah.
It's another kind of like it's another short banger. That's how I'm gonna put it. It's another one.
Quick short bang.
It's called Beacon Pines, and it is a game that is all about finding the bad endings. So just setting the scene, Beacon Pines is a narrative adventure. You play as Luca Van Horn. He is a young boy in the small town of Beacon Pines who is trying to solve the mystery around his father's like mysterious death and his mom's sudden disappearance. It has a very cool like storybook art style. Everyone is kind of look like Winnie the Pooh characters, sorta, where they're like basically the like cute animal creatures, but at the same time it's Beacon Pines with a little bit of like, as the developers put it, it's Beacon Pines is Winnie Pooh with a little bit of Stranger Things sprinkled in. So there are elements of horror and people getting messed up pretty bad in this game, which is a huge contrast to like the kind of cute and cuddly art style. But the main draw of it is the way it develops its story. There is branching storylines like the acclaimed game Shadow the Hedgehog. There are branching storylines, and when you go down one path of the story, it gives you information that might be helpful in other areas. For example, one of the bad endings is you have Luca fess up to an adult, basically being like, yeah, all this horrible stuff happened. And it turns out that, this guy was actually working for the corporation that's trying to cover everything up. So he freaking kidnaps Luca away so he could be experimented on. So basically, with you knowing that knowledge in other timelines, you'll be like, this guy, don't trust him at all. So it's a very cool way of telling the story. It's in a very non-linear fashion, and also it just has a load of charm. It has funny writing to it. It has pretty good characters for what's there. Like I said, it's some sort of weird like cross between like thriller horror themes and like Animal Crossing. it's cute and cuddly and horrifying at the same time. So I recommend go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Animal Crossing. Nook is gonna break your fucking kneecaps if you don't pay on time. All right. He runs a business, not a fucking charity. So yeah, that's my first recommendation. Yeah. My other recommendation, weirdly enough, is a first person shooter on the Switch. You can also get Steam. That's probably the best way to play it. But if you're really itching for a good FPS on the Nintendo Switch, I really recommend getting Dusk. Dusk is it's a retro style type shooter, recently made, so it has like nice little neat lighting tricks and stuff like that. But the art design is something like a bit of like Doom and Quake. And like those games, it is about high-speed boomer shooter action where you're just looking for secrets, getting weapons, blowing up demons, all that kinds of stuff. It's a really cool game. You're mostly just running around fighting redneck cultists in like the backwoods of somewhere, Virginia, I guess. Virginia is the only place I could think of where an eldritch horror would emerge from, or whichever state Drew really hates.
I would say
Indiana.
Ohio is primed for that.
Indiana.
Yeah, actually, I think or Indiana.
Yeah.
Dusk is Indiana/Ohio simulator. You basically are trapped in the backwoods and you fight a bunch of cultists, redneck cultists.
Oh yeah, it's really Ohio.
Yeah, that actually is probably more Ohio or Gary, Indiana. But that's not really like, that's more in like the city. That's more city environment.
Hey, no, there's a city part in Dusk too. Like you get out of the backwoods and eventually get to the city. So yeah, you go from like Ohio to Indiana. You see the transition in Dusk. If you really like the Doom reboot games, and if you also like really like the old Doom games, I really recommend playing this game. It has really good fast action. It has bunny hopping in it, and what the game does is the more you bunny hop in a row, the more speed your character picks up, to the point where they are just freaking yeeting across the map. It is glorious. It's a very fun high speed game that controls shockingly well on the Switch. I think they give it like very forgiving aim assist, but never lets down on like the speed of the game. So you just feel like a shotgun hobo on crack in that game is the best way I can put it. And also, just to keep up with the themes of horror, Dusk also has really good, surprisingly effective horror moments. Like there were parts that legitimately made me like kind of like jump about. I'm like, holy shit! Like I was not expecting that. Because as you progress through the game, it gets more and more eldritch and weird and creepy. Even though it starts up as a fun, like kind of gory, schlocky, like grindhouse FPS boomer shooter, it gets progressively more weirder than that. So I really recommend it. Check out Dusk.
All right. I'll have to look it up. And another Game Pass recommendation. Just got sponsored this podcast already. Well, as for me, just so not all of our Pixar video game related, I am actually going to do and still related because it's an old school anime, but I'm going to recommend a very old anime, and that is its original title is Yu Yu Hakusho, or
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, I've started watching that.
Yes.
The Spirit Detective. It was one of those days where I was just like, I want a long form anime just to kind of always have, and maybe put something on the background. And I saw it on Hulu, and I was like, I've seen memes made of this show. And I started watching it, and I just kind of started loving it. Like, Yusuke's great. His friend is an idiot, but he's so, like, it's good, like, 90s, like, stupid idiot.
Kuwabara.
Kuwabara. Yeah, he's so much fun. I'm still a little early, so, like, the names are a bit, like, I know, and Hiei's very interesting as well. But I essentially like just finished like one of the very early, like the first arc where like all four of them work together and like beat like this like zombie like thing that's happening. But the show's really fun. I thought it would kind of be like really stupid because I thought it was like Spirit Detective, so like, oh, it's like ghost stories where it's like well, I guess not, I shouldn't say ghost stories because that's a very different anime, especially dubbed. But like, I thought I was like, oh, they'll be like solving mysteries or whatever. That's fun. No, it's them. It's boys punching each other. It's boys fighting, and I'm like, this is fun. This is badass.
Shonen action.
It's a shonen action. I was like, fuck yeah, this show rocks. I remember like having I've noticed something in anime. One of my favorite things is when there's like a moment of a bunch of guy characters, like essentially the boys moment, where like they just line up or just charge it on. Like the boys are pulling up. Like I really like it in Demon Slayer where the main trio shows up. Naruto had one of my earliest memories and like favorite moments when like all the young dudes like show up to go beat up Sasuke. And this moment, like, this show also has it where it's like your four main leads, going to attack a castle or whatever. And it's a fun show. Very, very fun characters, and I'll definitely continue watching that. Robert, I didn't think I realized you were a fan of it.
Yeah, I've watched the first couple seasons.
Yeah. So I'll definitely keep it. It's a shonen, so it's like incredibly long, but that was kind of the idea starting out, just to have something fun. I don't know what to watch, and it's late at night, so I don't care if I like miss a few details. Just throw it on, and it's been fun. But
Yeah,
That's interesting because
I
like
can't
I think with Yu Yu Hakusho, I know nothing about it. I think I've definitely heard of it. I think it's the show that I always get mixed up with Inuyasha over and over because they sound similar to me for some reason.
Fair enough, because
They're
I've
both
actually
90s.
watched a little bit of Inuyasha, and they're both shonen like action animes, but very different stories.
Yeah, and I guess the at best the most connective tissue to them is like they both have "you" in the name, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely seems like an interesting show.
I'm excited for you to get to the tournament arc, Drew. The tournament arc is really good.
That was the other reason that I haven't gotten to it yet. But someone told me, I don't think it was actually a person I knew. I just saw it on Instagram where like they were ranking tournament arcs, and that's one of my favorite tropes in anime. I think it's what got, because I'm an old school Naruto fan, like OG Naruto I think is amazing. And that's like when I was like, I knew I liked the show. I love it when shows or animes do it. And I remember someone put a rank up, and it had A, and the only thing in S tier was Yu Yu Hakusho. And I'm like, all right, hold up. What the heck is this tournament? Because I gotta watch this now. Because it was above Naruto. It was above any of the Dragon Ball ones. It was above the Black Clover one. It was above all these other great ones. It was the only thing in S tier. I'm like, okay. We gotta look at that, because the Naruto tournament arc is one of my favorite things in like all the fiction, in all of anime. So I really gotta see this. But that's maybe that'll be a future podcast. Just the Yu Yu tournament arc. But as for this podcast, that is everything that we have. I want to thank Seth for joining us. Thank you.
There's no problem. Always happy to talk about Resident Evil.
Yeah. And Robert, thank you for coming on talking about Resident Evil.
Love nerding out on here.
Yeah, love it. All right. And as always, thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for next week and stay safe out there. Goodbye.